And good morning and welcome to Football Friday here on the JP Peterson Show. So glad you guys are with us. Hopefully you got your power back. Life is returning to some normalcy, and we got football this weekend, and that's what it's all about. So welcome into the show, brought to you by Emerging Investigations, Tampa Bay's #1 private investigation agency. Nick Geddes joining me from his home in Fishhawk. This will be our last day on the temporary StreamYard here, folks. I am in Orlando, where it is about 68 degrees and not a cloud in the sky. It is absolutely gorgeous. You would not think a historic storm came through here just the last couple of days. Nick, how's everything over in Tampa Bay?
Yeah, good morning to you. This is, I said to you before we got on air, probably the nicest day outside in this area since the beginning of spring of 2022. It is that perfect, honestly. Blue skies, not a single cloud as I look out through my window. Well, about 65, 66 degrees. I hate the way that it happened, that we had so many had to pay a price to get this weather, but it's definitely great to have it right now.
Yes, it is, and hopefully we'll get back to some normalcy. The announcement came yesterday of what we expected. We talked about it on the show yesterday. The game will be played. The Bucs-Chiefs game will be played Sunday night in Raymond James Stadium as expected. Kudos to Mayor Jane Castor for reaching out to the NFL to let them know that everything is ready to go. The TSA did a great job as well, letting the NFL know that there was no damage to the stadium. Public safety is not going to be an issue here. You know, I think a lot of times we always kind of err on the side of caution when these decisions are made. But I think it now is a kind of a good time to say we're glad that obviously, the Tampa Bay area was spared a direct hit. We're horrified of what's happened to our neighbors to the south. It sucks. But the Glazers committing $1 million donation to help the folks out down there. Tom Brady also throwing in a pile of money to the relief fund. So everybody doing their part to make sure that we get as much help as we can. I know all of the emergency or most of the emergency crews have been dispatched from Tampa Bay down to Fort Myers. We've seen the damage from the aerial photos now, heard some of the stories, and it is, wow. It's just, and it's, it is a very, very sobering reminder of what can and unfortunately probably will happen one day in the Tampa Bay area. And, if we learn any lessons from this, it's that, and thankfully, at this point, it doesn't appear to be a substantial loss of life. I think I heard the death toll at 7 was the last I heard. It may have ticked up from there. But given the damage that I've seen, it's a miracle that few died. And also, it also obviously is a huge reminder when you get these evacuation notices, folks. I know it's a pain in the ass, and most of the time it turns out to be a false alarm, but you got to do them. You got to do them. You got to get out of those low-lying areas. You got to get out of the coastal areas. It's not worth it. So if we learned anything from the storm, I think that's it. And now we can move on and hopefully have some diversion. And obviously, I encourage everyone to donate to the funds, whatever you can do. I know there'll be a lot of local churches doing and businesses doing drives to help the folks down south. So remember, that could be us. So do what you can. Do what you can in these tight times.
A few things from me real quick. To me, it's very sobering because as you all know, I'm a UCF alum. And before that, I went to FGCU for 2 years there in Fort Myers. So a lot of these areas that have been impacted, I'm very familiar with, and places that I used to go to, like Fort Myers Beach. And I don't know about you, but seeing the strip of Fort Myers Beach and the pier, the before and after pictures are,
wow,
they're almost bone chilling, to be honest. And then to see everything in Orlando yesterday, I mean, roads away for like a lot of apartment complexes right there in the UCF area.
Yeah,
they can't get out because everything's flooded. I mean, every parts of where it was just straight grass and there's no lakes even around or ponds. It's just covered completely. And to something that to happen that far inland, it's hard to wrap your head around. Definitely hard to watch all that stuff.
So many people lost their cars. They parked them on the surface, and I always tell people that, that's one of the main things you got to watch out for. I always, during a hurricane in Tampa, if I'm staying, I always, find a parking garage somewhere, park your car, take a scooter back home, whatever you got to do. If some people, it's not, and it's probably unexpected for a lot of people that they would flood in certain areas, but you got to heed the warnings and listen to the emergency folks. And again, I know sometimes it's a pain in the ass, but you got to do it.
And real quick too, one last thing on this before we get to the Bucs, because you tweeted this last night. When you tweeted that last night about people freaking out because nothing was open. So I had went over to my mom's house yesterday to help take her the shutters off and everything, and I'm coming back to Fishhawk. I see a line all the way out to the road for Culver's, and then I pull up and there's a Taco Bell, Wendy's. Both of them are there's probably like 30 cars in line at Taco Bell last night, and this was at like 5 something when they opened. And me and Casey were like, "What is wrong with you people? Like, have you not prepared? I mean, what is
4
this?
hours.
Like, for hours? That's
people got to. They're complaining about places not being open. Well, guess what? The people that work there probably can't get to work or have other things to do.
Right.
You didn't prepare for 24 hours. You can't.
We were talking about that. We were talking about that on the way home, and then we saw your tweet, and I was like, "Thank you." Like, why does nobody else understand this? I just can't fathom sitting in those lines, waiting for Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Yeah, you can't prep to make a few sandwiches ahead of time. I mean, there's so many easy ways to do it. You could cook food on your grill. I saw Eric Erlinson was doing that. You could, I made this crazy announcement to some people that you can get an AC adapter for your car and plug in, if you want to plug in a microwave oven, a toaster, whatever you want. If you really need to cook something and you haven't prepared ahead of time, there's so many ways to do it. Like if we get really hit by a storm, I mean, people, they're going to die if they don't have Taco Bell within 24 hours. It's amazing.
I don't know.
Be better, people. Be better, people. All right, so a couple things. I got my FSU stuff on today. I'll be headed to the Wake Forest game on Saturday. Everything's cool in Tallahassee. They're expecting a big crowd. In fact, they even announced that there people that can't get up there, send your tickets in. They're going to give away a lot of tickets beginning at 11:30 in the morning to make sure the house is packed. So Dave Clawson, the Wake Forest head coach, if you think it's going to be like Vanderbilt, no, it ain't going to be like Vanderbilt. It's going to be a packed house, and Spear will hit the Indian Head about 3:30, and that place is going to explode. So the FSU game is on. Of course, the USF game is going to be on tomorrow, Saturday, down at FAU. They moved their game. So, but you'll be able to watch that at 2:30 on ESPN Plus if you had it. All right, let's get to the Bucs. Good news for the Buccaneers. They will be hopefully a little bit more complete in the receiver position. Chris Godwin practiced on Wednesday, took a rest day on Thursday. Julio Jones practiced again, limited. Donovan Smith practiced limited. My guess is that Julio plays, Mike Evans plays. I'm still iffy on Godwin. I'll believe it when I see it. But if they can get Julio, Evans, and Russell Gage, who had a huge day last week, okay, now we're getting back to what we expected this offense to be. Donovan Smith obviously is a key piece, so we don't have to chip on every play to get receivers out into the pattern. So I think this will be a little bit more representative of the offense that we hope to see in this Bucs-Chiefs game. This is the only thing that's holding this team back right now. And the Bucs are 2-1 in this gauntlet. I think they have a very good chance to go 3-1, but it's going to be a tough game. I mean, the Chiefs are playing well. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. I know they stumbled a little bit last week, but this is a team that has a lot of firepower. But I think this is a good matchup for the Buccaneers. You heard Shaq Barrett say on Wednesday with a chuckle in his voice that he doesn't see a whole lot of difference from this offensive line to the one they ravaged at the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and feels like it's a great matchup and they should be able to get a lot of pressure on Mahomes. Nobody plays the Chiefs like the Buccaneers do, and they gave the blueprint to the rest of the league on how to play them. So I expect this Bucs defense to do what they've been doing. They're the number one scoring defense in football. They've allowed just nine points per game. They're just playing phenomenal football, and I expect them to play well. Now, this offense has to get going. I think we'll see them hopefully score more than one touchdown in a game for the first time this year. I would expect probably a 24-17 game. That's kind of what I'm looking at, 24-20, that the Bucs will win. But I do think it's still going to be relatively low-scoring game. Tom Brady spoke yesterday down in Miami to the media. No great revelations here, but I think you could hear in his voice that he's excited to get some of his guys back and get this offense rolling a little bit more to what they thought they were going to have at the beginning of the season. So let's listen in on Tom Brady.
Hey, Tom, I hope you guys are doing well. You guys are 2-1. Start there. A lot is being made of the 3 touchdowns in 3 games. How much of that is just not having your guys, right? Like you always said, continuity wins the NFL. And frankly, you've had a lot of new faces.
Well, I certainly expect us and hope we can score more points than what we've been scoring. So, it's a lot to I think we're all disappointed by the fact that we haven't scored as many points as I think we're all capable of scoring. So, we're 3 games in. I think we've realized there's things that we haven't done so well that we got to get corrected. And who's ever in the game, we got to go in there and do a better job scoring points. And like I said, it comes down to a lot of different things. Penalties, turnovers, and it's making the right play, executing the play. And, if we do that, I believe we'll score points. So we just hasn't been their highest level the first 3 weeks of the year. And hopefully we can get there at some point. But we're working hard to get there.
Jenna Lane.
Hey, Tom. I know that you dealt with a tropical storm a couple years ago, but just what's this experience been like for you having to evacuate, and what's it going to mean for you on Sunday to be able to suit up for people that, a lot of people throughout the state that are really struggling right now?
I always feel like sports has brought people together over a long period of time, and, watching different adversities, whether it was 9/11, whether that was Katrina, sports has an amazing way of kind of healing wounds and bringing people together and bringing communities together and something to cheer for and a common interest and a common good. So I think anytime you can participate in things like that, it's a great feeling. And, I know it means a lot for us to have the opportunity to go out and play for our fans always. But, after what so many people have gone through in the state, it's great to go out there and give them something to cheer about.
Greg Allman.
The logistics of being out there, kind of being in your own building, if you will. I know there's a lot of other more difficult situations for people to be dealing with this week, but have you guys been able to prepare as close to what you normally would to get yourself ready for Kansas City on Sunday?
We haven't even had a Thursday practice yet. There's still so much prep. We're 1 day in. We still got 2 days of practice. We got a lot of meetings Friday, Saturday. We'll use every minute we have up to game time to prepare. It's not like we're preparing for the easiest team either. We're facing one of the best teams in the league. So, we're just going to do the best we could do with the circumstances that are presented in front of us, knowing that, we're definitely, in a different routine, but we're going to have to focus the best way we can in order to, put our best performance out there.
Sarah Walsh.
Hey, Tom, what kind of confidence does it give this team that the fact that you mentioned that it hasn't been the highest level of offense, but the fact that you guys are standing 2-1, almost won that game on Sunday night. So what does that do for this team, knowing that the output hasn't been where you want it, but the results have been, pretty good?
I just love the way our defense has played and, their ability to play great football, for us. I think they've done a great job against Dallas. They did a great job against New Orleans. They played really well last week. So, we got to go out there and we got to try to match what they've been doing. They've been doing an unbelievable job, and they're keeping us in every game. And we got to ultimately go out there and find our rhythm and score more points and take some pressure off them too. But I know that they feel like, they have a great group, and they're, they feel like they're doing a great job, which they are. So that's why I love football. It's a team sport. There's nobody that ever points fingers. You show up every day, you put the work in, you do the best you can do, and you win as a team and you lose as a team. And that's what I love about this. I love about this team, and it's been that way since the day I got here.
Last question will come from Rob Maddie.
Hey, Tom, I was just talking to Drew Brees, and he said he remembers a conversation with you in 2014 about playing until you're 45. And then yesterday, Patrick Mahomes says he would like to do the same. How often do you have those conversations with younger players about taking care of their bodies, and what does it mean to you to set that standard?
I think it's, you can always, it's always important, I think, to have goals, because I think you should always have the ability to plan for things in your life, and things you set out for. And I remember talking with Drew, and he had an incredible career, incredibly productive too. So, it's just always nice talking to different guys, seeing what they're doing. And obviously Patrick, what he's done in his young career has been nothing short of exceptional. So, I've been very fortunate, with an amazing, support team, and all the work that I do with Alex to prepare my body. There's still a lot mentally, emotionally that go into it. And it's, as we know, as you get older, the challenges become a little bit, it's just more, there's more responsibility in your life. So, navigating those things are that's part of it too. So, like I said, all you could do is the best you could do based on the circumstances that are presented in front of you, and you try to, give your best. And when you commit to, the team, you do your best you could do. And I think that I've always tried to be a really dependable, consistent player for the team, and try to show up every day and do a good job.
There's Tom Brady. Yes, Tom, you've done a good job. You've showed up every day, and you've done a good job. So we appreciate that. Tom Brady there. Pat William asked, not to get too far off topic here, but just kind of interesting. Lamar Jackson to Tampa next season? No. They will franchise tag him, or he will get a new he'll get a new deal. He's not leaving. He's not leaving the Ravens, which is even more bizarre why he didn't get that contract this year. So whatever, we'll see how that passes. I don't see Lamar Jackson getting out of there unless he does some crazy holdout type thing, which I don't think he really will. We'll see how it goes down, but
I'll make a prediction right now.
All right.
The next quarterback for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be Cooper Rush. Bold prediction right here on the JP Peterson Show on a Friday. Cooper Rush, 3-0. 3-0 Cooper Rush will be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback. Mark it down right now.
Wow.
There's always one. There's always one of these backups. Matt Flynn, Josh McCown, Mike Glennon, always one of these guys who gets paid by a team. The Bucs are no different. I actually think this guy's a little bit better than those dudes. Who knows? I'm just saying.
It's an interesting thought. I haven't really thought about the quarterback market yet. We'll see where it goes after the season, but we'll mark that. We'll mark it down here.
Just mark it down. We'll get there when we get there, but we'll enjoy Tom. We'll enjoy Tom for at least 15 more games.
Yeah,
hopefully more.
Hey, at some point we're going to get into the Tua thing. For those who missed it last night, it was, one of the most grotesque things I think I've ever seen on a football field, to be quite honest, given the circumstances. And you hear Brady talk about, playing and what he does to keep playing. Even Tom Brady, I would think, would have to look at that and just give a little pause. If you missed it last night, of course, it's all over social media. Immediately as it happened, as Josh Tupou slammed Tua to the ground. You could see his head hit the turf again. And given last week's instance where everybody and his mother saw Tua get concussed, and then I guess he talked the doctors out of saying or feeling that he was concussed, and they cleared him from protocol, went back into the game. You cannot tell me that was the right move, because what happened last night was clearly residue from what happened the week before. There's no question in my mind. If you read any of the stuff that's been on social media from doctors, neurologists, they'll tell you the same thing. If you saw his fingers go crazy like that, and he held them up to his face, that's called tonic posturing. I want to get this right. Tonic posturing, and called a fencing response. And it is clearly a neurological response to a concussion. And there were even some people on social media that were saying, like, this could result in death. And I think that's what a lot of people were thinking. I know it's what I was thinking. Did we just witness a player die on the field? And thank the Lord that was not the case. He did regain all the use of his extremities. He has his feeling back. He was conscious, released from the hospital, flew back with the Dolphins. So he will continue in concussion protocol. But as we all know, one concussion makes it easier for the next one, makes it easier for the next one. And you got to ask yourself, if you're Tua, do you keep playing football?
I think, to me, that hit, it brought back the horrors of Ryan Shazier. That was immediately popped into my mind, was Ryan Shazier all over again. And all I can think, and I know there's a lot of people saying more people are worried about what caused this than Tua's health. You know, I don't want to get into a shouting match on that. I mean, people should understand you could think two things at once. Obviously, we're concerned about Tua's health, clearly. But there are things that went into this that caused this more so than the hit. And it starts with, like you said, 4 days ago, where everybody and their mother could tell you, I don't need a PhD to tell me that dude had a concussion. You don't, okay? But there was everybody who's more qualified than me. Chris Nowinski, who we spoke with at the Super Bowl, immediately knew that was a concussion, right? And to allow him to play 4 days later on that field and for it to happen again, I mean, it just tells me the NFL's concussion test is bullshit. Their protocol's bullshit.
Yep.
And to me, what makes it worse is the NFL, in one side of their mouth, is all about health and safety, but then they ignore the players' concerns with playing Thursday night football. Why are teams playing on Sunday and then playing on 3 days rest, whatever it is, on a Thursday? If you're going to keep your Thursday night football, because it's all about money, the teams that play those days need to be coming off a bye week, in my opinion. There is no need anymore to have these guys play on this short rest. It weakens the product, no matter the fact that people are going to watch it. It weakens your product, and it creates more injuries. And we saw that again last night. So this is shameful from the Bell, shameful from the Dolphins, all parties involved. They failed him. They failed this young man.
Yeah, you have to really be inside the organization to know exactly what happened. So it's difficult for me. Clearly, I'm not a doctor, but we study these things, and we've seen, I've been covering this league for 40 years. I've seen all the concussions. You see the way people react. You see what happens. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that on a football field. But just your common sense tells you that these were both related. They're both related. And, I don't know what kind of protocol they're doing, or whether the science is just not that exact yet or whatever. But my God, Mike McDaniel went on this long soliloquy, the Dolphins head coach, last night, about how he would never put anybody in any type of harm's way. And that's, I'm sorry. That's just, I can't believe you. We all saw it with our own eyes last week. We saw it here. So I'm sorry. I just can't believe that. And the bigger question now is for Tua. Does he ever, and I know he's a gamer and he wants to play football, but man, after what I saw, I would certainly take a long, long time off if I were him. And then really kind of consider his own mortality at this rate. But the league looked shameful. And I thought it was very interesting about how on Amazon last night. Al Michaels, obviously having someone experienced in the booth like that, I can only imagine what was going on in that commercial break. I guarantee you there were discussions at the highest level in the NFL on what they were going to do and talk about this. And then two breaks later, they mentioned the word concussion, and Al Michaels actually went to the neurological card, which to a lot of us was obvious, but to actually say it on a broadcast in conjunction with the NFL. And I don't know, I don't, at those higher levels, was Roger Goodell pissed that they said that? Because, without examining somebody, you don't know for sure. All the telltale signs are there, but from a legal standpoint, should you really be saying that? I personally am glad that he did. I'm glad that they talked about it in an open way instead of trying to hush, like, well, we really don't know. We don't want to speculate. Bullshit. We see it. Nobody acts like that when they get concussed. That is not normal. And I think people needed to know that and hear from experts on what their first glance was about. It's unusual, but I tell you what, when the story is told about that, it's going to be very interesting on how that whole thing went down. So, hey, we got JC Allen from Pewter Report. I believe he is in our waiting room. If you want to bring him in, Nick. JC, are you there?
I'm here. What's going on, guys?
Hey, good to see you, my friend. Thanks for joining us. Sorry we had a little mix-up there with the phone and the stream, but good to have you on. We were just going over the Tua injury. I think you saw it last night. Would love to get your take on it. What'd you think?
Yeah, it's just awful, and the league has got to do a better job of putting these players in the best position health-wise, especially when it comes to concussions. And I was a little disturbed they kept playing the replay over and over and over again. I don't necessarily. I mean, I guess it brings more exposure to it, and it kind of helps the NFLPA in their case, by the gravitas of the situation. But I did not like seeing it over and over and over again. There's got to be a big change, and the NFL's taking baby steps, but it's time to take a big step forward in what we're going to do about this concussion issue, and maintaining the player's safety. This is a gladiators game, guys go down injured, guys get hurt all the time, but when we're talking about brain injuries and head injuries, there's got to be a better way to go about it.
I would agree with that. They say that they followed all the protocol. They're independent doctors, et cetera, et cetera. But the bottom line is, JC, a lot of it depends on what the player is telling you. We can't, go into his brain and see exactly what's going on at that particular time. Yeah, we can get a brain scan, do some preliminary imaging, I guess, I don't even know if they can do that at the stadium. But, so I think most of the stuff at the stadium is just you're talking to the player, looking into his eyes, doing neurological tests. But the player, if he wants to play, can probably fool you. And I think that's
the biggest problem.
Yeah, and I think that's what Tua did. And I wonder how he's thinking about that right now.
Right, and I think that's one of the biggest problems is you've got so many of these incentives and things like that tied to playing games, and guys don't want to lose that. Not to mention, Tua, for everything he is and everything he's not, there's been a lot of conversation about this is a make or break year for Tua. If he misses a game with a concussion, he's missed games with injuries in the past. Is he going to be labeled as injury plagued, etc.? So there's a lot of pressure on players to go perform, and sometimes that pressure comes at the expense of their own health. And I'm pretty sure that's part of what happened here. But with the Miami Dolphins and their recent transgressions, who knows if it was something also that they were just like, hey, you need to play. I don't know. I don't know the details, so I don't want to get into it too much there. But the bottom line comes down to it's definitely unfortunate. First of all, hope the young man is okay and will be able to rebound and have a normal life. Everything, what's coming out is that, all of his extremities were working, but you don't know the lingering effects of what a concussion can do, not only mentally as well, like your mentality. So I hope that the idea is not to rush him back on the field and let him take time and kind of it's just really unfortunate.
Well, you know, JC, you brought up a couple of really good points I want to go back to. Number one, the pressure on the player and the situation, and you nailed it. I mean, for Tua, this is his moment, and he knows it. He knows it. He's got Waddle. He's got Ty Hill. He's got his offense is clicking now. It is literally, I mean, it may be one of the best top 3 offenses in the game right now, and everything is clicking. And those, look at the Buccaneers. We went into this season thinking this is going to be such an explosive offense. Then all your receivers go down, and even the greatest to ever do it looks like Josh McCown out there. So and Tua knows this. This is literally $150 million proposition for him right now. If he continues and plays through this season and puts up these numbers, he's going to get a humongous contract. He will have proven it. If he doesn't play the rest of the season, I don't think it will ever happen for him, ever.
Right.
And he knows this. I mean, everything he's done in his life has come down. Everything has led to this for him. This is his moment. And that's probably why he lied his ass off to get back on the field and tried to play through it. It's a great, great point you make. And then you brought up about this organization, the Miami Dolphins. I mean, if we know one thing about them is that they do not play by the rules. They do not play by the rules. They don't give a rat's ass about the rules in any way, shape, or form. And this is right down Stephen Ross's alley to try to circumvent these rules to get his quarterback out there to play. 2 fantastic points that you made, and the NFL needs to step in here. They really, really do. So we'll get back to the Bucs now. Obviously, this is hopefully a turnaround week for them. They're getting some guys back. You and I weren't able to see practice or see guys run around, but the word is that Julio's out there. He's participating. Well, I'll definitely get Mike Evans back. It seems like the feeling is that Godwin is getting closer. What are your thoughts on the receiving core?
Yeah, I mean, good news so far. You've got and of course we'll get the latest injury report here soon, but Mike Evans is back, not even on the injury report with that calf injury he suffered. So that week off, while it probably safe to say it cost him that game against the Green Bay Packers, he's also now fully healthy for the rest of the season, hopefully, at least for the immediate time being. So Russell Gage dealing with that hamstring, still limited in practice, but we saw what he did last week, and he looked pretty dang sharp out there. But Julio Jones, limited participation, dealing with that partially torn PCL. That's huge that he's been out there the last 2 days. I wouldn't be surprised if he got a rest day today. We know that he's got rest days built in this season. So if he shows up on here as a rest day today, same thing with Tom Brady. Don't be alarmed. But I think he's trending in the right direction to play. And Godwin as well. I mean, Godwin was back at practice, limited on Wednesday, had a rest day yesterday. I expect him to be back at practice today. So, if they can get Julio Jones back and Mike Evans back, that's huge. And then if Godwin is able to come back as well, that is just a huge upgrade from what they were dealing with. Now it looks like Rashad Perriman will probably be out, dealing with the knee and hamstring. Hasn't practiced the last 2 days. But, I mean, if they can get Julio, Godwin, Gage, Evans back on the field, that gives you your 4 primary wide receivers, and it makes this pretty much the first time we'll be able to see all these guys on the field together, healthy for an extended period of time.
Well, JC Allen joining us from the Pewter Report. We heard this from Leftwich yesterday. We've heard it from Brady, and they don't want to make excuses, but I think we all know. We've talked about it. This offense is predicated on Brady having those weapons. So I'm not going to freak out until I see them at full strength. Now, that being said, I still, through these first 3 games, I have concerns about the offensive line. I think it's limited the passing game because obviously they're having to keep tight ends in, keep running backs in to protect Brady. So what are your thoughts just overall on what you've seen from the offensive line?
There's been ups and downs. I think when, that first game, losing Donovan Smith really hurts. When you're down to your second string, then your third string tackle, along with a rookie left guard and a center who's making his first start, that's really tough. I think the right side of the line has look great. I think Hainsey's, for the most part, looked great. Not great, but really good. I'll give him probably like a BB plus grade. Gedecke's got some work to do, but we knew that coming in. But if Donovan Smith comes back, I think that settles him down a little bit more. When you have two young guys in there, or a young guy, and in Josh Wells' case, a very limited veteran, it kind of puts more pressure on him. So if Smith is coming back, who's been limited the last 2 days with that elbow injury, we heard it was a pain tolerance thing. Well, he's missed 2.5 games now, so it's time to get back into the lineup for him. If he obviously there's no further injury, and you want to make sure that he's going to be able to be adequate at the position. But I think after what we saw from Brandon Walton last game and what we've seen from Josh Wells, I think even a 80% Donovan Smith is probably better than what we're going to get from those two guys, and he's going to improve everyone else around him. So definitely think that there's room for the offensive line to improve. But as we knew from the get-go, it's going to take reps, it's going to take snaps, it's going to take being in the game and learning from your mistakes and growing on each play with Gedeke and Hainsey for them to really improve. And right now the Bucs don't have any other better options unless they were, really had enough and maybe go look at a guy like Eric Flowers, who's still on the free agent market to play left guard. But I don't think they're at that point yet.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind them making a move to beef up some of that interior offensive line. I don't think they're going to go through the whole season unscathed there. So if you can make a move, make a move. Maybe they're just holding that money for you know who. Look, we've looked at the red zone has been a disaster. Third down has been a disaster. If you looked at Brady's career numbers with and without Gronk, this is what we're seeing. And I don't think obviously the injuries to the wide receiver core are huge, but this not having Gronk and then Kate Otten not playing last week really didn't give you a guy that could stretch the field down the middle. That's something that Brady loves to have. So, your thoughts on where the tight end position is, and do you still think there's any hope that Gronk comes back? I think there is. I still think he's going to come back and play. And Lord, does Tommy need him?
Yeah, I agree. Third down has been a huge issue for this Bucs team. 12-42 over the first 3 games of the season. Those are not good numbers at all. I think part of it's been due to play calling, though. Putting yourself in early holes and third and longs have certainly not helped. And it was encouraging to see, even he was out, but Kate Otten, you saw how much of a difference he can make, and that's encouraging, to see out of your 4th round draft pick. And really bodes well for his future with the Buccaneers. But, Cam Brate is kind of Cam Brate, steady Eddie. He's going to make some catches, but, it's hard to have him in there to be that playmaker as one of those move wide receiver tight ends when you need the guy to chip and block. And that's not his forte at all. We know that. So, I definitely think they're missing a guy like Gronkowski. There's no way around it. You've seen Leonard Fournette has 227 yards in the ground, but he's also had to stay in a lot and chip and block, and it's limited what his role can do. This is a guy who was third on the team with receptions last year, and he's not getting that opportunity as much because he's having to stay in and block. So, offensive line to the tight end position, it is one of these things that kind of trickle into each other. If you're putting more resources on one spot, you're not going to be able to utilize it in the other spot, which is the passing game. So, I think Mike Evans, Julio coming back will definitely help the red zone and third down numbers. Those big bodied contested catch guys who Brady can just kind of throw it up and make the catch. But I also think just having his core of wide receivers, you saw last week, the wide receivers other than Russell Gage had really difficult issues separating. I know Brashad Perriman's dealing with an injury. Scotty Miller was a little banged up, but he's kind of fallen out of favor a little bit. And they're trying to utilize him in ways that I don't think best highlight his game. He doesn't want to be this one-trick pony, but that's what Scotty is. So having those complement the wide receivers back, having hopefully Donovan Smith back, Kate Otten back, I think that kind of helps the whole offense, in the red zone on third downs. And we'll see what Byron has dialed up for play calling and see if that kind of improves this week.
Yeah, you've been a little down on the play calling, and I've kind of given Leftwich a pass because of what he's working with. There ain't much in the toolbox right now for him to work with. He's having to rely on Leonard Fournette because I don't think they trust the other 2 guys in these critical situations. That's got to change. They got to get. I think that's where he's fallen down the most. Sometimes you got to give up your security blankets. You got to let the kids get out there and play. because you're beating up Lenny Fournette. He's not going to and Leftwich knows this. He knows this. Fournette knows it. I asked them about it the other day. They all know it. So we got to see it. We got to see these guys get out there and do it. But I feel for him because there are not many options. You know, what do you call on? And actually, they ran the ball really well on first down last week. They were getting 5 and 6 yards a pop a lot of the time. They threw the ball a lot on first down last week with great success, including the first play of the game. So to me, it's all about third down and red zone. They just haven't been able to convert. And as you know, that's when players distinguish themselves by their talent. Maybe it's not so much play calling as it is talent. You got to get separation on third down. You got to be able to make a contested catch on third down. You got to be able to protect the passer on third down against the best blitz packages. So, to me, it's more about the Jimmies and Joes than it is about the play calling right now. So I might disagree with you a little bit on that.
Yeah, but I think there's certain situations where you've got to get creative. Okay, you know what you're dealing with. It's not like going into this game, a bunch of guys got injured. They knew what they were dealing with. They knew who they had, and I think that utilizing different strategies. And look, they try to kind of do it on that end around, but I think it goes back to a few years ago. Leftwich has kind of always had issues scheming guys open. Byron, same thing. I mean, Bruce Arians, same thing. Sometimes they rely a little bit too much on the playmakers' talents rather than really putting them in positions where they can, by play calling, get them open and make them succeed. And I think that's a big shortcoming in some of his.
I would agree with some of that. No question about it. We saw a lot of creativity in the run game against Dallas. Jet sweeps and what have you, some counter trays. We didn't see that. In the other games, I'm like, where did that go? Because that was great. But the other part of scheming guys open, so much of that, is what? It's bootleg, right? It's right. RPO. It's moving the quarterback. He ain't got that in the toolbox, right? It's not like we're running bootlegs with Tom Brady, or maybe we should. I don't know, but I know they don't want to expose him. But I think so that limit, and that's the whole thing to me about it is when you have a 45-year-old quarterback who's not very mobile, a lot of these things that you would normally do are out the window. So, I'll give him a little pass on that. So let me just ask before you get out of here, quickly, your thoughts on the actual matchup with the Chiefs. I was a little amused at Shaq Barrett laughing at the Chiefs offensive line the other day, basically. And I'm like, they've only allowed 2 sacks, bro. They're tied for first in the league in sacks allowed. Why does he think they're gonna feast on these guys?
I just think that he's had success again. Maybe the film study, Byron's been able to put, not Byron, Coach Bowles has been able to put them in a position to really have success. Against anyone, who doesn't matter whose line it is. Now, obviously the first 3 lines they faced all had issues. You had 2 guys coming back from injury last week. You had the interior that was kind of beat up for the Saints, and you had the tackles against the Cowboys that are both kind of untested and young. So Orlando Jones has struggled in the last couple of weeks. I think Joe Tooney's kind of regressed since he got that big deal. I think there's definitely ways to get after the quarterback here. I mean, this Bucs defense has done it before. Again, different team, different lines, combination, etc. But I think they feel comfortable looking at the tape and the game plan that they can, get after the quarterback and make Mahomes run around again. This offensive line has been good, but I think if you're looking at where they can attack, like I said, Orlando Brown has had some struggles. Andrew Wiley on the right side, he doesn't really strike fear in anybody as that right tackle, and I think Travis Kelce, they know is not a blocking tight end. They're not going to keep him in and have him blocking. So I think they like the matchups that they have against him, especially if Rojo's in the backfield in pass protection.
Got to get that shot in there. Well said. All right, partner, tell us what's going on with Pewter Report. You want to make a pick, go ahead, and what you got going this weekend for the game.
Yeah, so Pewter Report, we're going to have our predictions out coming out soon today. We've got all sorts of great articles and stuff over there that will that are up that will be out all weekend. Fantasy Outlook will be over at Walk-Ons in Midtown for our pregame show. So definitely, if you're in the Tampa area, you want to come check that out. We'll have giveaways, all sorts of fun stuff going on over there. And I've been wavering on this back and forth all week, and I originally had this as a loss in the Bucs schedule. Looking at them having to move, the displacement, worrying about all sorts of things on their mind, or whether it be their homestead, if it's Devin White, his horses, going down to Miami, then possibly having to go to Minnesota. I thought that might be a little too much, but with the shift, and thoughts and prayers to everyone who has been affected by the hurricane. But with the shift over more to the east and really not affecting the Tampa area, I think that kind of puts their mind at ease. They're playing at home now. I did have this as a loss. I'm doing a 180. I think they find a way with the offensive weapons that come out. And again, the injury report will definitely persuade me one way or another more. But I think the Bucs get it done. I think they finally find their groove on offense. And I got them going 24-21 right now. Victory over Kansas City on Sunday night.
24-17, 24-21. I'm right in there with you as well. All right, JC, great stuff, man. Appreciate your time as always. Enjoy the game on Sunday. We'll talk to you down the line. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have a good one, guys.
All right, want to take this moment, since we don't have we're out of studio today. We don't have all our breaks as normal, to thank all of our sponsors, including Emerging Investigations, Tampa Bay's #1 private investigation agency. If you're having issues with your spouse, or there's a missing person, or anything you might need a PI for, a lot of insurance fraud work they do for a lot of attorneys here in town is something they do very, very well. They're great folks over there, and real easy to talk to. They do very professional work. So if you just have some questions in your mind, how the process works, what it costs, just go to their website, emerginginv.com, emerginginv.com. They've got a lot of information right there. Get their contact information. Just give them a call. It's a free call, and Rachel or Brian will answer the phone and talk you through the whole process. So it's Emerging Investigations. We appreciate them. Italiano Insurance, obviously, with the hurricane coming through, folks. If you have questions about being fully insured, 813-877-7799. 64% of homeowners are not properly insured. So don't be the one who waits till after the hurricane hits to find out that you don't have enough insurance. Call them at 813-877-7799. Also, big thanks to BAMMC.com, Bay Area Modern Medical Center, Chris Lugo and his team. Great folks over there. We had him on the other day talking about nutrition and diet and exercise. And if you're looking to lose weight, lean up, or just get healthy, Bay Area Modern Medical Center is the place to go, folks. BAMMC.com. Call them over there. Tell Chris Lugo that JP sent you. All right. I want to bring in our good friend, Pat Burnham from Tallahassee, where I will be in about 24 hours. Heading on up there to see the first meeting of ranked teams since 2018, Willie Taggart's opener. And Pat Burnham joins us from the Osceola. What's up, partner? How are you?
What's happening, guys? How y'all doing?
We're doing well. We came through it well. I'm here in Orlando. Nick's in Tampa, and we were spared. So.
Yeah, obviously, you got to feel very blessed and lucky, given on what you're seeing a little bit south of you. I mean, it's devastating, and obviously, thoughts and prayers to everyone that's been affected adversely by this. And I know Lee County and Charlotte County took the brunt of it, and obviously, thinking of all those people.
Any connections to the players at Florida State that you know of that live down there?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they've. I'm sure there's some that are from the Fort Myers area. Obviously, know some high school coaches like James Chaney, who played at Florida State's down there in that area, and a lot of friends.
Ernest Graham.
Yeah. So thinking about all those people, and tragic, and a lot more important things in football, but I'm glad we get to talk about it.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned this in my open. The Bucs are going to play Sunday night in Tampa. FSU's gone forward with the game, and I know there were some questions about that. And I just remind people of something that we learned through COVID, especially, is that there's a lot of people depending on the income for these games. It's not just a football game. People want to say, she's worried about a football. Mayor Castor's worried about a football game. It's like, it's not just a football game. There's a lot of public investment that goes into these stadiums and these games. There are thousands of employees that work there that count on that money for year round.
And what it does for local businesses.
Oh
yes.
my God! I mean, these are big deals. I mean, these are huge economic impact weekends, and you just can't willy nilly cross them off because you might have Trust me, the people that are in charge, they know what they need, they know what they can do, and I think sometimes we jump the gun a little bit in canceling these games. So I'm glad that we're doing a little bit more due diligence and certainly making sure that everybody has what they need. But also putting some importance on this game. It's not just football. There's a lot that goes into it, especially in these smaller towns. So, I applaud FSU for doing the right thing and doing their due diligence, and the Bucs and the NFL as well. So I think you can.
Yeah, I mean, once there was no issue with the weather in Tallahassee or
Right.
Wake getting to and from the game, other than diverting resources to the game that might otherwise could be used, it didn't make any sense to not play this game.
Right.
I know Dave Clawson's made some rather snarky comments the last couple of days. I don't understand what's going on there, but all I know is he's pissing off Florida State and Florida State fans, and I think there'll be a few more people than.
Yeah, you froze up there.
Sorry. Oh, I was just going to say, I think there'll be a few more fans in the stands than the Vandy game that he referred to, and I think that they're going to whoever's in the stadium is going to be extremely loud, even if it's not 79,000.
What do you think the crowd will be? I think I agree with you. I think Clawson's comments have definitely riled up the fan base to make sure that people are there. I know we were kind of vacillating about going. I'm not saying that put us over the top, but I'm like, you know what? Let's go. There's no reason we shouldn't go. So let's do it. I think you might see another 79, 80,000 people there. I know they're giving away free tickets, 30 at the baseball stadium. So if you don't have them, go over there Saturday morning. You might be able to pick some up.
Yeah, and I think that you might get some walk up from people that have left the southern part of the state and the eastern part of the state to get away from that storm. And listen, you'll have a lot of people in Tallahassee that can't go otherwise that may go because of this. And I know the only projection I've seen is 66,000. That's still probably about 30,000 more than Wake Forest plays in front of outside of Clemson and NC State. When they go there. But anyway, so yeah, interesting comments from Dave. I think I don't know why he's got an axe to grind against Florida State, but apparently he does. And if I was him, I just would have stayed quiet and not gotten everybody a little bit more restless than they're already going to be.
Yeah. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Hey, let's dive into the matchup between Wake Forest and FSU. As we did on your tailgate show, had a lot of fun doing that. Osceola Tailgate Show. Check that out. I retweeted it as well if y'all want to get into a good hour and a half of breakdown of that game and some other college football stuff. But I thought, it's just very interesting. It's just the mesh point, delayed mesh point. That we called this – we have an offensive name for this yet. We have a name for every offense. We got to name this thing. The dead fish. I don't know. What do you want to call it?
Mark thinks it's Mark. He if you remember taping the tailgate, he likes it. He compares it to the old delayed draw they used to run with Coach Bowden.
Yeah.
I talked to the Wake Forest guy. He sees it more as a midline option run RPO type thing. I don't know what you call it. I call it a delayed zone read, but it's unique. And unfortunately, it got more effective the longer they played against Clemson the other day. They had been struggling running the ball. Ended up 9 yards on the ground, and it's versus only its other two FBS opponents, Louisiana Tech and Georgia Tech, and neither one of them are particularly good. But yes, listen, it's a fascinating matchup. It's likely to be a high-scoring affair. We know both these offenses have been highly successful in producing big plays this year, and I think you're gonna see up and down the field both offenses really.
Pat Burnham joins us from the Osceola, and this is the FSU Report brought to you by Italiano Insurance. We thank them, and I'm sure the Italiano game will be up at the game this weekend, so we'll catch up with them. Let's talk a little bit about Sam Hartman, their quarterback, who is, I think, accounted for over 100 touchdowns now in his career. A phenomenal passer, thrower of the football, great touch, great accuracy. It's got A.T. Perry, a big wide receivers. This FSU pass defense, I think, is in the top 20 nationally, so they've done a hell of a job. How do you see that matchup between that passing game against the Knowles secondary?
Well, listen, we're going to, we've always said that the FSU secondary has plenty of potential and could be good. I do think that Amarian Cooper, Kevin Knowles, and Jamie Robinson, Jamie's already proven himself to be as good as there is in the ACC. The other two are young. I think they're sophomores, still haven't played a tremendous amount of football, but very talented players. So, listen, we're going to Wake Forest is going to make some plays. They're too deep at wide receiver. They got too good a quarterback. They have 5 guys that have at least 10 catches. It's kind of the A.T. Perry show, but it's not. They've got several receivers. Sophomore Jamal Banks has 16 catches and 4 touchdowns in the last 2 games. They've got another receiver that's got 16 catches, and they make a ton of big plays. They rank 14th in FBS in pass plays over 20, 8th in pass plays over 30, and 7th in pass plays over 40 yards. So they're consistent in doing what they do. You're going to give some big plays in the secondary, and as we talk about all the time, Florida State is going to have to play some complementary football up front with its rush, whether you can pressure Sam Hartman with 4 or you have to bring an edge blitzer or a blitzer up the middle. They have been susceptible to giving up sacks. They're not very good at pass. Listen, it's a very veteran offensive line Wake Forest has, but it's been a disappointing year. They've got 192 career games combined among the starting 5, but they're allowing 2.5 sacks per game and 5.5 tackles behind the line of scrimmage, both on the very back end of the ranking. Sacks allowed 91st, TFL's 82nd. So listen, in order to stop Sam Hartman, you're going to have to pressure and make him uncomfortable. And people have been able to do that. But if that run game gets going, it makes that pass game just more effective. So listen, we talked about it on Tailgate. You got to get after him a little bit, right? You just can't sit there and let him pick you apart.
Yeah, that mesh point thing, I've seen Florida State try to slow play it and react to it. I think you got to do it like Clemson did it. You got to attack the mesh point and just hurt people. Just blow up the quarterback, blow up the running back. They're going to get up. They're going to get some big hits here and there. But, Wake's defense is awful. As you mentioned, the FSU should put up some big numbers. I think Jordan is tied for second in the nation in yards per completion at 15.2, I believe. So they're putting the ball down the field. This Wake defense is susceptible to the pass and the run. So I think if you can hold them to 28, 31 points, you should probably win this game. I mean,
I feel we talked about that yesterday too. If you telling me Wake Forest walks out of here with 28 points, I got to think Florida State's walking out with a win. Again, how do you defend to Sam Hartman? Let's complimentary football again. Florida State's going to make its share of big plays. They're going to attempt their share of big plays in the pass game, but I think this is where you want to limit the number of possessions Sam Hartman has. We know Florida State can run the ball. Wake Forest is very average against the run, 68th in the nation against the run. If I'm Mike Norvell, I want to keep him off the field. Yes, we know we're going to see the long touchdown or long pass attempts downfield by Travis to Johnny Wilson and Darian Williamson and Micah Pittman and all the guys they've had show up at receiver, Malik McClain, Kentron Potier. They've all had big games and big moments. So Florida State's going to actually utilize those guys. But I also think he'll try to slow the game down or, not slow the game down, but, get the game over fast, right? Run the ball, keep that clock moving. You don't want Sam Hartman to have 12 to 14 possessions with the football. You'd like to limit him to 8 or 9, which helps get you more towards that 28-point thing you're talking about. If you give him 12 possessions, you're looking at 35 to 42 points more than likely, the way they've moved the ball this year. But certainly the biggest test FSU's defense will have faced all year. Louisville was a little bit more Malik Cunningham specific. You can't just you just can't narrow down one guy here. They've got a plethora of receivers, as we've already talked about. And, listen, if they get that run game going, it's going to be an interesting day. But I think the offense helps the defense out with whatever Mike and Alex Atkins decide to do, and hopefully that will be a little bit more run heavy than they have in the past. Last week they were 25 passes in the first half versus 17 passes. You kind of like to see that number flipped against Wake Forest.
Agreed. All right, Pat, great stuff as always, my friend. Hopefully I'll catch up with you there in Tallahassee. What do you guys got going this weekend as far as the Osceola coverage?
Well, we've got our little happy hour type pregame show down at Tally and Finn on Madison, right across from Couches. Obviously, we just published our scouting report on Wake Forest. We've got our Know Your Enemy show, which we bring in Deke's illustrated publisher, Connor O'Neill, to give us a more in-depth and inside look at Wake Forest. That can be found at floridastate.rivals.com. But Know Your Enemy is good. And then, of course, you joined us yesterday for the taping of the Osceola tailgate. Kurt Weiler's got a great story on the FSU challenge FSU secondary is going to face. But floridastate.rivals.com. And, guys, as always, I appreciate it. And glad you both made it through the storm safe.
I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Shopping hand ready to go. All right. All right. We want to take a quick moment before we bring in Brady Tinker to thank a couple more of our sponsors. JeevesLawGroup.com will bring us our second half here. JeevesLawGroup.com. If you have been in a traffic accident and your car's been totaled and you don't think you got as much money as you should have, that's probably the case because insurance companies do that all the time. This is one of the things that Jeeves Law Group specializes in. So give them a call. Go to JeevesLawGroup.com. That's their website, JEEVES. It's a free call. They will tell you if you have a good case. It's pretty cut and dried when you just look at the numbers, but a lot of you got shorted. So you could recover thousands of dollars. So might as well make the call, JEEVES, JeevesLawGroup.com. Also, AMS Mortgage Tampa, Scott Fitzgerald. If you're in the refi or looking for a new home, and I know the rates have gone through the roofs, he's got some special programs, some government programs that can find you rates way lower than you can find on the street. These are rates that have to do with a new government program that's trying to spur investment in certain areas. So it's all about the address you live at or what you're trying to buy. So just call Scott and find out if you are in the money in this particular program. So just email him, scott@amstampa.com, and you will find out. And also the Golden Diamond Source, Julie and Steve Weintraub, we thank them so much for all their charitable works. I'm sure they're hard at work helping out folks from the hurricane. So if you're in the market for a new ring, some fashion rings, a lot of guys are wearing a new Rolex, used Rolexes. They have a great selection. If you're a collector, check them out, the Golden Diamond Source, 3800 Overton Road, always online at thegoldendiamondsource.com. All right, let's bring in our good friend Brady Tinker from DFW Sports and DSP Media. What's up, my friend? How are you?
What's up, you boys? I bet you're feeling pretty good about your Buccaneers team getting a few people back. I mean, 2-1 probably is pretty good right now as you sit here, right?
Yes, we'll take
Tom. Looks like Tom weighs about 142 pounds, so he should be good to go. He don't look right.
I've seen him up close now for the past few weeks, and I got to tell you, it's startling. Yeah. It's startling compared to what I've seen before up close. It's startling. I'd probably, if I had to guess, I'd say he's probably 210.
Yeah.
Normal 225, 230.
Yeah.
6'5". So I'm not sure why he made that decision to get leaner. Probably take more weight off of his knees and ankles, I guess. Been having some knee issues. I don't know, but it's noticeable. No question about it. But we've come through the storm. We're going to have the game at home on Sunday night, so that's all good. Before we get into that, Brady, you've covered this league as long as I have, 40-plus years. What you saw last night from Tua on that injury, I don't know about you, but there's very few times I've been shaken to my core.
Yeah.
Sick to my stomach watching football, but that was one of those moments. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it made me sick to my stomach, and all I can think of is I hope that the NFL hasn't done or allowed to have done what I think they did, and that is let a young man suffer through some sort of concussion symptoms and then get thrown violently on his head again. When the whole finger thing happened, and I looked that up, and they're like, okay, that's a cognitive thing. That's a brain reaction to a brain injury. I'm like, this could be one of the worst things that's ever happened. We go all the way back to what Darryl Stingley and those guys, whoever the guy was with the Raiders that ended up, really not able to walk anymore. It hit me like that. And I was really afraid that that's what was going to happen. I was afraid we'd seen the last of Tua Tagovailoa as a player. And he's 3 or 4 or 5 years old. It makes me sick to my stomach. And I know there are supposed to be rules in place, and I assume they happened, that a separate neurological group did look at him after that last game. But if they kept on insisting it's not his head, it was his back, and he had a knee issue, and that's why he wobbled like he was drunk. But everybody in the world who has an IQ of 80 knows what a concussion symptom looks like. So it was disturbing, to say the very least.
Yeah, and one of our other guests brought this up earlier. There's extenuating circumstances here when it comes to the Miami Dolphins organization. They clearly have no regard for the rules. They're going to skate them any way they can. And I know there's supposed to be some independent person in charge here, but it sure doesn't look like that happened. It sure doesn't look like that happened. And, prayers go out to Tua. I know he's conscious. He flew back with the team. But if I were him, and I know there's hundreds of millions of dollars at stake right now, and you don't get opportunities like this many times in your career to have a receiving core like this. But you know what? It ain't worth it.
It's not worth it. No, it's not worth it.
All right, well, let's move on to the Bucs-Chiefs game, which obviously you grew up in Kansas City. You know a lot of people in this organization. It was kind of funny to me. We've talked about this. I'd like to get your take on this. Shaq Barrett was literally laughed when asked about the Kansas City offensive line, if it's better than the one they faced in the Super Bowl. And I would say it is, but he wasn't very impressed. He's like, no. We feel like we have really good matchups here. We're gonna feast on these guys. Basically, is what he said.
Well, I would imagine that part of what brings the arrogance there is the winning that's gone on in the last few years with that organization. That you guys have found ways on both sides of the ball to be really one of the 2 or 3 best teams ever since Tom's been there. He's a good player. But the offensive line in Kansas City is markedly better. There's no doubt about that. I think what people are probably liking right now as they look at Kansas City film is, once again, the best of Andy Reid is the best. And it's been a privilege to be a Chiefs fan, if you will, and watch what he's done in Kansas City. It's been amazing. We have a winning football team every year, and that included Alex Smith right before Pat Mahomes. But Andy Reid won't run the damn football. And this offensive line is a pretty decent offensive line to run the football, and he won't do it. And he can't even really find a running back that he likes. So he runs all these guys in and out. And the truth is, it's still the Pat Mahomes get outside the pocket and make a play show, which one is going to get him killed. And 2, he doesn't have Tyreek. And when you get outside the box, the one guy who was always open, who was just quick as a hiccup, was Tyreek Hill, who can make one little bitty move one way or another. And he was so brilliant. If you watched him last night, at coming back for the football. So few wide receivers. They flatten out. They wait for the ball to get there. It gets knocked away. Well, it wasn't a good pass. Come back to the quarterback a little bit. Tyreek's brilliant at, because he's not afraid of giving up 2 yards coming back. He's just going to turn around, square you up, and go around you anyway.
Right.
So that loss for the Chiefs is being felt more and more and more as what were gimmies for Kansas City for the last 6 or 7 years with Tyreek were 3rd and 3, 4th and 3. Run him in a little Y option route. Let him get either against the zone or man. You can't stay in front of him. Mahomes has got a little cannon, throw it to him, and we picked up short yardage situations like that. They are struggling with that now. Juju is not getting open. Marquez Valdez-Scantling never has gotten open, other than one-on-one coverage, maybe down the field. So, and they're bracketing Kelsey, which is what I do. So if I'm Shaq Barrett and I look at this offense, and I also look at Mahomes once again fighting with his offensive coordinator, which we saw last year in the AFC Championship game. And what we saw was the second half of the AFC Championship game. He was awful, 5 for 16 for 55 yards, and he was awful, and he didn't get over it. And in the game last week, he wants one more play before halftime, and he didn't get over it in the second half, and they cough up a game to Indy that was their game the entire game. Right. So if I'm Tampa and I'm getting back the players I'm getting back, and I have the pedigree that I have, I'm feeling pretty damn good right now about Kansas City coming to town too.
Wow, so you like the Bucs in this spot?
I do. I whatever's wrong with Skinny Tom, his brain's just fine. He's going to find the right places to go. He's getting looks like 2 of his receivers back. I guess he's probably not getting Godwin back, but Evans is a wonderful blanket for him to be able to throw 50-50 balls to, and he wins most of the time. So, and he gets his left tackle back, isn't that correct?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so he's fine. He'll turn around, give that ball to the running back, get things established, and get a little play action going. The Chiefs defense, actually, though, I will say, generally in the last 3 years or 4 years where they've had such success, it started off slowly and it's sort of rounded into form in the second half. Not so much this year. They've been very good. They're getting to the quarterback. They're disrupting people. They're probably not quite as good in the secondary, but their 2 linebackers that they feature are really, really good. So, this isn't going to be easy, but I do think there's a little mojo missing from the Chiefs and probably a little returning to the Bucs.
And where do you kind of land, you think, on the Mahomes Bieniemy, I guess, disagreement, I guess we'll call it? Do you think the cameras maybe just kind of made that look a little worse than what it was?
Maybe. I mean, first of all, Bieniemy disagreed with 2 things, and the truth is he was right both times. Bieniemy did not want them to take a play with 5 seconds left before halftime in the AFC Championship game, up 14 points with a point-blank field goal, and you get the ball in the second half. He was absolutely right. But what we're missing here with Andy Reid is this is Andy's son. And remember what we always said about being dads? You probably don't know yet. But what we always said about being dads is we can't be our sons' friends. We've got to be their dads. Sometimes sit the hell down. Shut the hell up. Do what I tell you to do. This is what Andy Reid has to do. And he never wants to do it with Pat because he loves him. And he's seen Pat be a miracle worker, right? Be the Grim Reaper, right? When things are grim, be the Grim Reaper. Okay, he was. It was a friggin' amazing thing. So Bieniemy hasn't been wrong, but it's a tough spot for him. And, people wonder why Bieniemy hasn't gotten a job. The quiet word out of Kansas City is because he doesn't interview well. I don't know whether that's an arrogance thing or whatever it is, but he doesn't interview well is what they said. I'm surprised that he came back. They went out and got another assistant offensive coordinator, right, that Andy really likes. And I'm not sure why they brought him back other than Andy's loyal. Bieniemy's not doing anything wrong. On the other hand, he is doing something wrong because he's the quarterback. And he's owed $500 million, and he's a top 3 quarterback in this league. So an on-field show of FU, even if he's right, isn't good. It isn't good for anybody. It really isn't. And it is good for the opposition who's going, look at those fools. They got one of the best teams in the league. We're playing them. And they're over there effing themselves up like a bunch of high school kids. So I'm surprised Bieniemy returned after it happened in the AFC Championship game. But I will say he wasn't wrong either time. He was right. Shut up. We're the better team. We're winning. We'll go to halftime. We're going to win the game. You don't need another play. You don't. Sit down.
Yeah, listen, this league is tough enough when you're fighting amongst each other. It makes it really, really tough. I like the Bucs as well in this game, kind of 24-17, 24-21. I think it will be close.
Yeah.
We'll see a shootout happening here, but for 2 weeks in a row, it's been about the quarterbacks, but it's not going to be about the quarterbacks. It'll be about other things, I think, and especially in terms of injuries and who plays.
The under looks pretty good here. Really.
Yeah, I like I think Bucs have cashed the under for me all 3 games. If I'm
what's happening for fantasy players and the rest of us, it's the under league. I was going through games. I was going through games on our big gambling show the other night, and I'm like, I wrote yuck underneath like 5 games.
Yeah.
Yuck. What is a fantasy player or a gambler doing with Cardinals at Panthers, Titans at Colts, Seattle at Detroit, Jets at Steelers? Oh my God. Even Chargers at Texans, because that quarterback shouldn't be playing. So it's a yuck week, I'll tell you. And it's not, 100 points may win you a game in your fantasy league this week.
God, I'd kill to get to 100 points in my fantasy league these days. I tell you what. All right, let's talk a little fantasy here if we can. Do you have some? I know you had a couple players that you're looking at. Some maybe for DFS or some long shots. What do you got?
Well, I mentioned to you Mostert. Now he played last night, but Raheem Mostert is still fast. Is back with the offensive coordinator that loved him so much in San Francisco. As his coach in Miami, and it hasn't taken long for him to be the primary back. Now, looks like swing passes out of the backfield are still going to Edmonds, but for the most part, if Mostert is available in your leagues, I would imagine Miami begins to run the football a little bit more now too, with Tua out. So obviously he's played this week. That doesn't help you this week. But if he's on a waiver wire or you can make a trade for him on the cheap, I think Raheem Mostert his role is going to continue to go up, and there's big plays still in those legs. So I like him. And the one that people aren't paying attention to, and this is out of Dallas, this is a pretty good story. Part of the reason that the Cowboys are 2-0 since Dak Prescott got hurt is that Cooper Rush, a guy that no one knows except people from Ohio State named Noah Brown, and Kellen Moore, the Cowboys offensive coordinator, all got to Dallas in 2017 within 3 days. So they have sat in backup meetings. They've hung out together. They've had dinners together. They've all been backups. That's what Kellen Moore was when he got here. He was a backup, and then he ascends to the offensive coordinator position. And all of these guys have had so much time together that Cooper Rush's confidence, which is people are like, oh, he's more accurate than Dak. Statistically, he's not. He's not a better athlete. He's not a better quarterback when Dak is healthy. But what you're seeing out of Cooper Rush is he understands the offense. Foot's in the ground, ball's out. Foot's in the ground, ball's out. He has no hesitation. And you've been watching Dak last half of last year and the first half of that first game, and he's got all kinds of hesitation. Now, I believe that's because he's got deficiencies physically. But Noah Brown is a nice little ad that most people probably haven't done yet. Went to Ohio State, didn't have a great career, came out early because he just felt like his physical clock was ticking. And he's been here 5 years biding his time. And he ain't great. But I'll tell you what, if you had to play Noah Brown this weekend against Washington as your flex, you might get 10 to 15 points. You really might. So that's one that I really do like.
I got a receiver.
I was going to say, I'll keep it real quick on Dallas real quick, if I may. Do you think we're kind of seeing, based on what we saw Monday night, Tony Pollard outperformed Zeke Elliott with less touches? I think he got like 44% of the snaps. He outsnapped him in week 1. Do you think we're finally starting to get close to a point where Tony Pollard you can treat in that backfield as the running back 1 in a fantasy purpose?
No. I think, first of all, there is the Jerry Jones factor. There is still the contract factor. And there is the adoration factor for this coaching staff that Zeke is a dog and Zeke will pick up the blitz. Zeke will always do the right thing. Zeke has turned out to be, the man and the teammate they wanted him to be. Is his body worn out? Absolutely. Did he get 1 million carries before he ever got to the NFL? Absolutely. Did he get too many carries his first 3 years? Answer is yes to all that. So is Tony Pollard shot out of a cannon getting through holes compared to Zeke? He is. But they're going to run. What you're going to see is what you saw last week more and more and more. They are successfully running the ball with a makeshift offense. They went to this little zone blocking scheme. McCarthy is now much more involved in the offense. So instead of just firing Kellen Moore, he's helping him. And McCarthy's always been a believer in everything comes off the run. Last week, without Dalton Schultz, they went 2 tight ends a lot. And so you're going to see more runs. So the answer to one of your questions is yes, more Pollard, but not because he's the one, because they're going to have more rushing attempts. They're going to run the ball 26 times. They're going to shoot to run the ball 30 times in this game against Washington and get the turnovers they need to get and get to 3-1 magically, and then they get to a harder part of their schedule. But I don't think, that anyone's having a revelation, because the truth is we all had this revelation 2 years ago. He's way faster than him. He hits the holes way faster. Naked bootlegs running around the side, pitches, options, put him in the slot. We've all known this forever, and they've all talked about it for 2 years. Yes, we're going to do it. No, they don't do it. And both of these guys are on expiring contracts. So they're both going to play hard. More runs, yes. Tony Pollard is a 1. I don't think so.
All right, so I have a conundrum at wide receiver. I'll ask you about Russell Gage or Brandon Ayuk with
you tell me about Russell Gage's health. I did. It was easy to predict Russell Gage having a much better game last week, and he did. What's his health status?
He's going to play. I think he's got a little bit of a hamstring, but he finished the game last week, obviously making the game-winning touchdown catch. So he's definitely going to play. I don't think Godwin's going to play, so I think he'll get the second most targets after Mike Evans this week.
If Russell Gage is good to go, then I prefer Russell Gage between the two, because I visibly thought I saw Tom begin to really trust and appreciate Russell Gage last week. Tom likes people who understand the offense and who are where he wants them to be, right? Just like Aaron, right? Be where I tell you to be. I will make the proper read. You will get the ball. So I appreciate that. Ayuk is playing with a quarterback that's overblown. In San Francisco, their running game isn't what it's supposed to be. And everything that goes good with the passing game in San Francisco, as in LA with the Rams, interestingly, they play each other, works off the run. Neither one of those teams has run the ball worth a damn. Jeff Wilson's just filling in. He's okay, but the run blocking hasn't been that good. And as much as we celebrate the beauty of Jimmy G, the best thing about Jimmy G is he's handsome as hell. Other than that, he's extraordinarily average. And Ayuk's not his guy. Debo's his guy. So the guy that's not getting enough touches last couple of weeks is Debo Samuel. And if I'm San Francisco, I know it's in his contract. He gets paid more every single time he runs the ball as opposed to catching it. But at this point, they need to win a game. So it'll be hard for them to win that game too.
I got a lot of problems in fantasy football. Too many to go over.
So what's everybody else? What else you got?
But this is the worst one by far. So I'm in one of those leagues that has the two flex,
Okay.
and then what is it? Where you could put a quarterback. So you could put two quarterbacks in your lineup.
Okay.
So I had Dak. He's injured, obviously.
Yeah.
And my third quarterback that I've had to go with for 2 weeks is Davis Mills, and he's breaking my heart in so many ways. I know he's a different quarterback at home, and they are at home this week, but I'm so reluctant to go back to him. Would you stick him back in there because he's at home one more time, or would you opt to go for, and I have a trio of guys here that I could throw in, either Dameon Pierce, his running back, Devin Singletary in Buffalo, or one of Damian Harris or Ramondre Stevenson, that New England backfield?
It feels to me like the Texans could actually win this football game. And if they're going to do that, because Herbert should not be playing. And they have Chase Daniel, right? Don't they have Chase Daniel? How can you be running Herbert out there with 3 fractured ribs when you have Chase Daniel? We all agree. Chase Daniel's IQ and mental acuity and comfort in playing a game here and there and being good at it has made him rich, right? It's made him rich. Chase Daniel was on that team for a reason. And you got a guy with 3 fractured ribs. And the Texans are laying weight. Their offense should be better, I think. Where are those 2 wide receivers that I thought were going to end up with pretty gaudy numbers in games where they're always coming from behind? But the play there, as far as I'm concerned, is Dameon Pierce. 21 carries last week. It finally looks like that team has acquiesced to the point of, okay, he's the best player. Maybe he was a dick a little bit early. That happens with rookies in week 1 or 2. He was assumptive, he was lazy or whatever, and they slapped him down a little bit with Burkhead. But it's Dameon Pierce now. And so I want 25 touches against a wounded Charger team at home in a game that I think the Texans might win. But I ain't putting it on Davis Mills. I go Dameon Pierce.
All right, sorry guys, I got the lawn man right outside here as we're doing home studio stuff this week because of the hurricane.
Make sure he weed eats like he's supposed to. You don't want to see those damn weeds, you know?
You got to pick on the FSU weight game since I'm wearing my FSU stuff.
Yeah, I like FSU in this game. I'm worried that isn't their best defensive player out? Isn't that right?
Yeah, Jared Verse, he's questionable.
Okay. So that worries me a little bit, but not enough. I think not. If you're saying, am I good with the 6.5 points? Probably not. I'd probably give those points, but if you want me to tell you that your team's going to win, I think your team's going to win. I think there's just a little too much quality there, and the offense is a little bit too good for Wake. So somehow they'll win that game. But boy, I hate giving 6 and a hook as I sit here right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You got any other best bets before we let you go, Brady?
Yeah, let me look. Well, the game that I really want to watch, and who would have thought in week 4 of the NFL season that you'd be all aflutter about Jaguars at Eagles? But tell me that coaching doesn't matter. Peterson has lifted that entire team. They now believe the Eagles right now are the best team in football, maybe? I mean, it's silly, but the Bills are certainly probably still the best team in football. But how good does Jalen Hurts look? That one's an interesting game. I'm pretty dead set on the Jaguars covering in that game. I think Peterson's got them believing. I think the running game is just enough to allow him to throw the ball around the field comfortably. And the Eagles we've seen play well and then let teams back in games, right? Especially in the Detroit game in the opener. So I'd probably take the Jaguars in this game and those 6.5 points. I do think the Eagles are going to win. And the 46 under and over looks pretty reachable to me. So I think I would do Jaguars getting 6.5 and go ahead and take the over.
Hey, real quick too, and I can't believe I'm even talking about this team and this offense, but they've had renewed life, some of these weapons from a fantasy perspective, and that's the New York Jets. You've already seen the impact of Garrett Wilson, Ty Conklin at tight end, who I've had to use as a little bit of stopgap here the last couple of weeks with George Kittle being injured. It looks like we're getting Zach Wilson back this week. So do you think that any of these targets that have kind of been fantasy relevant the last 3 weeks with Flacco take a substantial hit with Zach Wilson getting back in there.
Yeah, I think they take a hit because you'll notice Flacco's thrown the ball 50 times the last 2 or 3 games, which is ridiculous. So I think they throw the ball less. They try to run the ball a little bit more. He works the running backs more. I'd like to see it for a week. If I had options before I said I'm going Wilson to Wilson, because that wide receiver is a good player, I'd like to see it. If I had an option, especially going to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's never going to stop. Now, they've lost their best defensive player, but they're never going to stop. It is going to be physical. They'll do everything they can do to confuse Wilson, who hasn't played football in quite a while. I don't love the Jets' offense this week. I really don't. I think the Steelers find a way to win this game, muck it up. This is an under game, too. This is a yuck game. And Pickett's going to be in for the Steelers pretty soon. It'll be Pickett to Pickens, and it'll be Wilson to Wilson. But I'd like to see those two things happen and watch them for a couple of weeks before I believe it.
All right, Brady, great stuff as always, my friend. Appreciate your time. We'll chat with you next week.
Yeah, remind everybody about our fantasy. So Jeff Thidoff and I, a great broadcaster out of Ohio, are now 3 weeks into Fantasy Football Now, also part of DSP Media.
Nice.
It'll be up. We already taped it. It'll be up Saturday morning for you. And we went through every single game. We gave you drop ads. We gave you, guys that turned us off. We made you laugh a little bit, but we went deep into every game and essentially every player. So from DSP Media Online, Fantasy Football Now will be up Saturday morning for you. I think you're going to like it.
All right, I'm going to go check it out.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, Brady. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Yeah,
next week?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, cool. I'll be here.
11 o'clock Eastern. Every on those weekends you don't have big reunions with all your buddies.
You got it. I'll be here.
Hope that.
All right.
Thanks, Val.
See you guys.
Right there. All right, we did have a request from our good friend Mark Davis to do this. Talk about them blowing a chance to clinch a playoff berth yesterday. And then this, Mark, what is this? Julio's been a bust. Come on. We're 3 games in. Let's let it play out a little bit. But yeah, so far he's been exactly what we thought he might be, and that's injured. But hey, when he touched the ball, it was electric though. It was electric. Let's hopefully he'll get back in there. But the Rays, whew, did you watch that ninth inning, my friend, where they loaded the bases with nobody out or one out?
Yeah,
coming to the plate.
Nothing I've seen in this Cleveland series has really shocked me. Okay, I can raise my voice and get all loud about it, but the Rays struggle against good pitching.
Yep,
is this really that groundbreaking to anybody? Not really. The Rays, when they get bases loaded, just aren't a good base. Just for whatever reason, cannot get these guys in. And in that ninth inning, I mean, G-Man Choi comes up, who at this point, I don't think he's making postseason roster. I don't think so. And at that moment, I know he's been hitting a little bit better. He's been squaring them up a little bit more. But in that situation, a strikeout is just catastrophic. And then Paredes I thought, he usually has pretty good, plate discipline. I don't think it was there in that at bat, and pops out to short right field rather, and the game's over. So yeah, you don't clinch the playoff spot. And as hard as it was for them to play in Cleveland, what do you think it's going to be against Houston now? It's going to be even harder, and they're going to clinch that spot eventually. Okay, it's probably going to be because of the Orioles losing games and the Rays winning them, I'd have to imagine. But it's a shame because you got a great outing from Jeffrey Springs last night, who again, excellent. We don't talk about him enough for how good he's been, but when you score one run, you're just not winning many baseball games.
Jeffrey Springs allowed 1 hit in 6 innings out of the infield, 3 hits total.
Yeah,
come on. You got to win these games. Look at the amount of runs that we've been scoring since Yandy Diaz and Rosarena got in that fight. It ain't good, and Yandy's been nowhere to be found.
And Randy hasn't hit any good at all since whatever happened.
Exactly, and that I hate to say it, but that may have been the turning point in the season, because this was a team that was trending towards getting hot in the last few weeks, maybe even getting that first wild card spot. Maybe they weren't going to catch the Yankees, but get that first wild card, those home games, which I talked about yesterday, I think is absolutely, if the Rays are going to do anything in this postseason, they've got to get that first wild card spot. And now that loss last night with a chance to now they're 2 games behind Toronto with 6 to play. They do have the tiebreaker. That's huge. But
I will say, I still think I'd rather play Cleveland on the road than play Toronto at home. I know that sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy, but again, it's just because I look at Cleveland's lineup. Like, I saw that lineup they put out there on Wednesday night, and I looked at the names and I said, holy crap, how is this team winning a division? Like, I'd rather take my chances with that. I don't care where the game's played than play Toronto.
In a vacuum, I would agree with you. Okay, but this is not a vacuum. This is a situation where this team has been on the road for 9
That's
games.
true. That's true.
To end the year, and they're going to have to go to Toronto for 3 games. They're not even going to come home. So I'm telling you, this wear and tear, it wears down on you. You don't sleep well when you're on the road.
Yep.
You're not getting your rest. You're edgy. You're just not the same team that you were. This would be literally 2 weeks out on the road, and then you got to come home. Even if you win that series, you got to come home and then go back on the road for 2 more for the divisional series. You got no shot, zero shot. You got to come home and take a couple of days to rest up, rejuvenate, and get ready for a home series against Toronto or whomever. I'm telling you, if they don't get that first spot, there's no way they're winning that first series. There's just no way. And that cost them last night. The last 2 nights, these games where they're giving up 2 runs and you can't win.
Gotta win those games.
You got to win those games you're in a playoff hunt. You got to find ways to get runs in. They're making mistakes on the bases. They can't get more than 3 to 6 hits a game. Come on, they're going to make the playoffs and they're going to celebrate. But to me, it's empty. It's just an empty nothing burger.
Well, I mean, we still got to play the games. I mean, we're giving our assessment of what we think can happen, but I'm going to be cheering my butt off for the Rays. Obviously, you're going to be doing the same.
Too.
And we both want to be wrong. We both want to be wrong. Let's put that out there because I think some people think that we might be cheering against the Rays sometimes, but I'm just being honest with you. We know the uphill climb the Rays are facing, having to play on the road to end the season and likely open up the postseason on the road. We know the challenges there. We know the challenges with some of the injuries. Now, they're as healthy now as they really have been since the beginning of the season. Even without having a Brandon Lau in the lineup, they're as healthy now as they're going to be. And I think that's kind of what's disappointing to me is like this lineup finally looks formidable on paper, but it's just not coming to fruition right now. They're not doing some of those things that they were doing in August when they were the hottest team in the league, and it's come to a standstill again.
One player makes such a difference. Like Smoltz said on our show the other day, the Rays have figured out the regular season, but they have to be perfect. They have to be completely healthy. And Yandy's not been healthy. And you take his bat out of this lineup, he's the table setter. It's been tough. And as you point out, Rosarena hasn't been good since the fight either. So I guess we have to call it the alleged fight, whatever.
The alleged fight.
All right, before we get to Lightning and a couple more things, just want to thank our sponsors once again, JeevesLawGroup.com. Call them if you've had some issues with your car being totaled and not getting enough money. The Golden Diamond Source, it's obviously always a great time to get over there. If you're in the market for one of those used Rolexes, you're into collecting Rolexes, which a lot of people are these days, because the stock market certainly is not going up. They've got a great selection there, and even if they don't have it in stock, they can find them for you. If you're looking for certain models, they can help you out with that. So many things over at the Golden Diamond Source, 3800 Ulmerton Road. AMS Tampa, American Mortgage Services, Scott Fitzgerald. Yeah, I know that a lot of you aren't looking for refis now, but they do have a great program over there. They're one of the few to offer it in certain zip codes and certain addresses where you can get no money down up to $640,000 in your loan, and you can get loan rates in the 3s with this particular program, but you don't know unless you check the address. So email Scott at AMS Tampa, and he'll let you know if your property or the one you're looking at qualifies. And Bay Area Modern Medical Center, BAMFC.com. Chris Lugo and his great team over there. If you're looking to lose weight, you need a new primary care physician. They are great folks, and thanks to those sponsors for allowing us this hurricane week here. We haven't been able to get our regular spots in, so we want to make sure we tell you all about our great sponsors. All right, the Lightning lost last night in Nashville 2-0. A lot of the regulars played more. I don't take a whole lot away from preseason games except the fact that the guys were out there competing. They got some good work on the power play. Got a little physical. Stamkos and Perry in the preseason already getting physical. So at least the old guys are grumpy already for the for this season. So I guess that's good news. They're going to be pissed off. They're engaged. So that's good.
No, I just the preseason hockey for me. Why is it that's like I feel like I have to go through so many leaps and bounds to watch a preseason hockey game, and it's available on the Lightning's website, and the stream is grainy and it's hard to watch and it's slow. I mean, there's so many loops I have to jump through to watch preseason hockey. I really can't do it. I'll stick to following along. I watched the highlights. I saw the one, give and go that Kucherov and Stamkos had, where Stamkos had a chance to score. And I watched the speed of the play, and I'm like, my goodness, man, this is like a beer league scrimmage. And these defenders, it's like whoever that defender was for Nashville, he knew he's making the team or something, because he didn't even make an effort on Stamkos. I don't know who that was, but it is what it is. I mean, it's tough for the Lightning too to open up your preseason after the week of the storm and having to be over there in Nashville longer than you wanted to. So we've been talking about the effects on the Bucs. It's affected the Lightning too a little bit. I think Cooper alluded to that after the first game where they were completely out of sync. That it's just a hard situation right now. But I believe they're coming back today to Tampa. So they'll be welcome back. And what are we, 14 days away from opening night?
Yeah.
Holy, I mean, my brain, I'm like so in the football craze. We got the Rays coming up, the Lightning are coming, and it's sneaking up on us there.
Yes, absolutely. Coming up quick. We talked about USF all week long, so don't forget them. They got East Carolina tomorrow at 2:30 ESPN Plus down at FAU. So, if you're so inclined to get on down there, boy, that's going to be a weird game. Going to be hardly anybody in the stands. But it's a big game. It's a big game for Jeff Scott. It's a conference game. They need to play well, and they need to win the damn game. They need to treat this like it's a freaking Super Bowl for them, because they need to win a damn conference game and get some confidence going. We talked about FSU Wake. The big game at night, NC State, number 10 NC State at number 5 Clemson. That's a huge game in the ACC, and, of course, FSU will have NC State the following week in Raleigh, and then Clemson at home the week after that. So FSU season the next 3 weeks hanging in the balance. So that's a good one. I'll be watching that one. Any other games got your eye this weekend?
I think everybody's gonna be focused. Oh, who you said UCF?
Yeah.
UCF has. Why is it left my brain right now? It's been a long week. Everybody, hold up.
No joke.
SMU. That's right. SMU. They got SMU at home. This game's gonna be played on Sunday at 2:00 at UCF. That game was pushed back. So
weird.
Again, it's going to be weird. It's during the day. Who knows what the crowd's going to be? But SMU is one of their tougher games on the schedule. We did our podcast for Believe Network, Charge On, and I picked SMU to win this game. So I'm objectively speaking against UCF
you are
there.
So hated on that podcast. I love you're the villain on that podcast.
No, I have fans now. Thank you. My fans love my objectivity towards this team, because there's way too many. There's way too many delusionals out there in this fan base, as you know. And sometimes sicko fans, and sometimes they just need to be, let them know.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'll say too, you asked about what game I'm looking at. Obviously, Arkansas and Alabama is one of the big ones this week. Yeah. I think it's in Arkansas, and I saw an interesting stat. Bryce Young has only played in 5 true road games in his collegiate career. 5, and 4 of them were decided by 3 points or less. So take that for what you will. I'm going to be rooting hardcore for Arkansas, because I love the Sikkim, John Daly, Sam Pittman. I love everything going on at Arkansas. So Suey
pig. All right, and the Rays, as we mentioned, going to Houston this weekend. Hopefully they'll be able to clinch a spot. They're going to have to win, I think, 5 out of their last 6 to probably get that number 1 wild card.
Yeah. And hopefully get a good outing out of Shane McClanahan. I need to see something to give me confidence, because I think this is his last start before the postseason.
All right. Also want to thank Emerging Investigations, Tampa Bay's number 1 private investigation agency. If you're having issues with your spouse, missing person, or an issue in a criminal issue where the cops aren't helping you out, and you need a private investigator, they are the folks to go to. So go to their website, emerginginv.com, emerginginv.com. Don't try to take these matters into your own hands, folks, and snoop on social media or get a tracker or whatever for your spouse. Let the professionals handle it, so you have accurate information to make life's biggest decisions. That's Emerging Investigations. And, of course, our good friends at Italiano Insurance. A lot of you folks got spared this week, and you may be thinking, well, is my insurance up to date? 64% of folks are underinsured. So you need to find out if you have all the coverage that you actually need. You don't want to find out afterwards when you're making the claim. So give them a call at 813-877-7799. And by the way, if you're not even if you don't have a policy with Italiano and you have some questions about your insurance, they'll be happy to help you. So this is one of the few places where you can actually call and get a human being to talk to you. So give them a call. They said that's fine. 813-877-7799. Even if you're not a customer and you have questions about being fully insured, they'll be happy to help you out. And let them shop your insurance at the same time, and you might find out that they can save you thousands of dollars. So check out our good friends at ItalianoInsurance.com. All right, that'll do it. Anything else for you, Nick, this week you want to bring up?
No, I think we covered basically everything there. Again, just I'm looking forward to getting back into our normal routine. It's been a little odd here being at home every single day. I got into that routine of making that drive to St. Pete, so hopefully everything will be good to go over the weekend, and we can be back in studio on Monday with a full 2 hours.
I will be at the Wake game, so follow me on social media. We'll give you some behind-the-scenes stuff there and some in-stadium stuff. I'm going to take the kids to their first FSU game, the lovely Ashley and her kids. They've never been to a Doak Campbell Stadium, so we're teaching them to chop the whole 9 yards. So we'll have a good time up there. And then I'll be covering the Bucs and Chiefs on Sunday night. We'll be back for that. So I'll be doing a little post-game from the field on our Instagram page there. So we'll have full coverage of the Bucs and Chiefs on Sunday night. And, of course, we'll be back in studio on Monday. We will see you then. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you on Monday.